Krishna was born in Mathura to Devaki and Vasudeva. During the night of his birth, which you know is midnight, that's why we're waiting till that time, Vasudeva took the baby across the Jamuna into Gokul, Vrindavan, and there Yashoda had given birth to a girl. But actually our ācāryas, headed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, say that, and they give evidence from the Srimad Bhāgavatam, known as Anuja, means that she was born after Krishna, meaning that Yashoda gave birth to twins, they say. And as Vasudeva brought Krishna from Mathura, Krishna is one. But as Brahma Samhita says, departure eva hita shantanama vyapeta dipayate vrivata hetu samana dharma. Yas tadrageva hicha vishnu chaya vibhati govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. That one is the original candle, but it can light many other candles that have the same potency. The fire is fire, and Krishna is the Vishnu Tattva, but he expands into many forms for his own enjoyment and for reciprocating with his devotees. So when Krishna came to the house of Yashoda, Vasudeva had brought him, that Krishna merged into the baby Krishna who had taken birth from Yashoda. Vasudeva didn't notice the boy but brought the girl back to the prison where he was. And this time in Vrindavan was a time of danger because Kamsa was bent on killing Krishna out of envy. He had been Kalanemi in his last life. He'd been killed by Vishnu in his life. He had an inborn envy for the Lord and wanted to kill him. He was ruthless, a dictator, a despot, cruel, even to his own family members. And now he unleashed his cruelty upon Vrindavan out of envy of God, wanting to kill Krishna. Many hired guns came to Vrindavan to try to search out the baby and kill it. So at the time when Krishna was to have his name-giving ceremony, Nanda took the child to the saint, Gargamuni. Gargamuni understood the situation and he said, if we have an open ceremony, people will talk. It's a village, people talk. It'll get around, it'll come back to Kamsa. He'll know there is a baby born here. And he'll come to seek out and try to kill Krishna. So they held the name-giving ceremony in a little cowshed. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Queen Kunti, when speaking about Krishna's Leela, said it's a drama. Krishna, you come like an actor. We can't recognize you. The different outfits you wear as an actor to play your Leela. Maya javani kacshanam agnad hoksha jamavyayam. Nalakshashe muda drisha nato natya darota. You're like a dancing actor on the stage. And the covering of Yogamaya, which is Krishna's internal potency, who arranges for various pastimes Krishna has in Vrindavan, myriad pastimes. Vrindavan is known as Madhurya because it's so sweet. It's a village. And although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has his name-giving ceremony in a cowshed. When we were moving from our last temple, which I remember distinctly was on Bascom Avenue. It might have been as small as a cowshed. And we had no air conditioning. And for those of you who came to Janmashtami there, bless your hearts. Because it was sometimes over 100 degrees and we had no way to cool it down. And one year, as we were getting rolling over there in that neighborhood, we had cranked up the kirtan inside and out. And as happens with every Hare Krishna center in the world, somebody eventually calls the police. And somebody did, and the police came and they said, better keep it down. And telling devotees to keep it down is not always so fruitful of a request. So they came back an hour later, which was 11:15. There was 45 minutes till the midnight artik. And I said, don't worry, we'll be finished by midnight. I went to talk to the police. And they said, no, you're finished now. They said, take down all these booths, take down all the signs, and get everybody out of here. We'll be back in 15 minutes. And there'll be serious consequences, fines, arrests, everything. We pulled down everything, all the signs, all the booths, and crowded everyone into the smallest temple room in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Hundreds of people. And we turned off all the lights. And we had a very quiet artik. And when the little lamp was going around offering to Krishna in the dark, it was so sweet. And because we were in that situation with police after us, we didn't know if they were serious. I thought they were. There was a sense of danger in the air. But those who were there say that was the nicest artik ever. And same in Vrindavan. Krishna arranges for these sweet pastimes to take place. There's danger, there's Kamsa. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead has his ceremony for his name giving in a cowshed. An interaction between Nanda and Gargamuni is very sweet. Nanda is so simple. He was glorifying Gargamuni, Mahat Vichalanam Nrinam Grihinam Dina Chaitasam. He said, you exist, you great soul, just for the sake of poor people like me, fallen people. You come to homes and you give your association just to uplift us. Grihinam Dina Chaitasam. He said, well, I'm a fallen householder. And here you're a great saint. You're coming here to uplift us. And Gargamuni looked into the chart of baby Krishna. And he said, and this is the first time it was ever said, and now it's all over the place, oh my God. He told Nanda, Asan varnas trayo yasya grinatonu yugam tanum shuklo rakta tapita idanim Krishnatam gata. He said, your child has come in various yugas. Has anybody said this about your child? And he said, in each yuga he comes different colors. So we know Krishna is blackish. But he said he's been here in different time periods, sometimes shuklo, raktas, tata, pita, sometimes he's yellow, sometimes he's white, red. Commentators say even green, Ramchandra. And this is Krishna's prerogative. He comes at different yugas. just to uplift the devotees. And with one hand tied behind his back, he kills the demons. Just to rid the world of these degenerative entities who harass the devotees. And Parikshit Maharaj is hearing about these pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, in his birth, his name-giving ceremony. And how Mother Yaśoda, how could one be the mother of God? God has no mother and father. In fact, it said, Jayati janani vaso devaki janmavado yaduvara parishat swara dorbir asyana dharmam stirachara vijinana susmita srimukena rajapudavanitanam vardayankam devam. Krishna, says Sukadeva Goswami, he's known as a member of the Yadu dynasty, but he's not really, because he doesn't belong to anybody. He's only known, and Kunti says, just like sandalwood, it grows in the Malayan hills, so it's known as Malayan sandalwood, but it's just sandalwood, or there's nothing just about sandalwood. It's ambrosial. Krishna, he doesn't belong to anyone, he doesn't have any parents, actually. But to reciprocate the love of his devotees, he accepts their service in various ways. And one of the ways is Vatsalya Ras. Vatsa means a calf. There's no one more affectionate in this world than a cow for its calf. And this is the mood of the parents of Krishna, Nanda Yashoda, but especially Yashoda. Because as Parikshit hears more about Krishna's babyhood, he says, Nanda ki makarod brahman, she eva mahodayam, Yashoda cha mahabhaga, papo yasya stanam hari. He says, how could she be so fortunate? Of course, Nanda Mahārāja is there, but Yashoda, papo stanam hari. Papo yasya stanam hari means that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he drank the milk from Yashoda's breast. This is Bhakti. How the Lord can become one's little child and drink the breast milk from the mother. And our ācāryas say, yes, Nanda Mahārāja is very fortunate. He became the father of Krishna, but Yashoda is the most fortunate because Krishna never left her. He was with her 24 hours a day as a child. No one was closer to Krishna than Yashoda. And in this same section of Bhagavatam, we hear the admonition that was much repeated by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu in his teachings. When he went to South India and he talked to Veṅkaṭa Bhaṭṭa. Veṅkaṭa Bhaṭṭa was in the Rāmānuja-sampradāya, it's a Śrī-Sampradāya. And they were having a discussion where Chaitanya Mahāprabhu and Veṅkaṭa Bhaṭṭa, a great ācārya there. And Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu is telling him, actually, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You worship Lord Nārāyaṇa. So Veṅkaṭa wanted to know, well, how can you say he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, how is it that the consort of Lord Nārāyaṇa came to Vrindavan and performed severe austerities to enter into the rasa dance? And Veṅkaṭa Bhaṭṭa said, you please tell me. It's because the quality of devotion in Vrindavan is topmost. There's no more intimate relationship between Krishna and his devotees than in Sri Vrindavan. And of all the devotees, Mother Yashoda has the most intimate connection with Krishna in his childhood. And therefore, Śrī Goswami says, Nayam Sukapa Bhagavan, Dehinam Gopikasita, Jnaninam Chatmabhutanam Yata Bhaktimatam Iha. And this is the verse quoted by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu to Veṅkaṭa Bhaṭṭa from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. There are many approaches. One may try to cultivate knowledge to understand God. One may perform yoga, Hatha yoga, Ashtanga yoga. One may be a karmi, try to position oneself in the material world in such a way as to have the best of everything. As Shukadeva says, none of these ways will attract Krishna. Only simple bhakti will. Nayam sukalpa bhagavan dehinam gopikasta. Yaninam chapmabhutanam yata bhakti matamiha. In this world, only by bhakti, following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. This is later written by Rupa Goswami, the process of devotional service. Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasindioja. Tishtam vraje tananuragi jananugami kalam nayeda kilamitu pudesha saram. He said, this is the essence of all advice. One should take to the practice of hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, the 9 processes of devotional service, continuously. And he said then one will come to appreciate the devotional service of the residents of Vrindavan. And when one develops this appreciation for the devotion of the devotees in Vrindavan, one may become intrigued by that. This is the beginning of one's relationship with Krishna in a particular mood. This cannot be artificially stimulated. It comes only by copious hearing over many lifetimes to come to this position of bhakti. And later we find in the story of Aghasura that Shukadeva and Parikshit, in discussing the kind of devotion that the devotees have in Vrindavan and how unique it is, Shukadeva describes how the boys, the gopas, play with Krishna in Vrindavan. They wrestle with him. Sometimes they pin him to the ground and they say, you're not so big. I can take you any day of the week. Sometimes they climb on Krishna's back. They don't do that in Vaikuntha. Sometimes they play like little children. They imitate the monkeys. They hang from trees. They make monkey noises. And Shukadeva said, Itam satam brahma sukhanuputya dasyam katanam paradaivatena mayashitanam naradarakena sakambrajaru kritapunya punjaha. He said, this is because they're the most fortunate. There are others who are less fortunate. They can only understand the effulgence of God. Or some, they only know God in reverence, in Vaikuntha. And some, they have no idea whatsoever. Mayashitanam naradarakena. They just think Krishna is an ordinary person. But sakam vrijaru kritapunya punja, those who have attained bhakti unmukhi sukriti, very special mood, only there in Vrindavan, they can understand, they can play with Krishna. And they are playing with him in Vrindavan. This philosophy of Krishna consciousness is passed down through Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu from Madhavendra Puri, who was in the Madhva-sampradāya, and expressed these sentiments. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu is Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Because Krishna came and he taught Bhagavad Gita and he said, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tong sarva papebhyo. Don't worry, just surrender to me. But how many people did it? Not many. He came back as Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And as mentioned in the Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita, Krishna thinks, for a long time I have not given my the intimate knowledge of my devotees in Vrindavan. Anarapita charim shirat karana yabatirna kalau samarpayitum munatoj rasam sabhakti shriyam. Hari purata sundara dhyuti katam vasandipita sada hridaya kandare spurito vasachi nandana. And that is, Krishna thinks for a long time, or some say never, given this knowledge of this kind of love that the devotees have in Vrindavan. And therefore, he came in the Kali Yuga, an unlikely time to teach the highest method of worshiping God in the Kali Yuga, which is already certified as a condemned age. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the sages at Naimisaranya, and they're setting the scene at the end of Dwarka Yuga, entering into Kali, and say, Prayanal Parisha Shabya Kalabasmin Yugejana Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Hupadrita. In this Iron Age of Kali, men have but short lives, they're quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and always disturbed, above all else. But in Kali Yuga, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu comes and he teaches about the modes, the mellows, the moods of the devotees in Vrindavan. Because as the author of Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita says, he becomes bored with ceremonial worship. Just like movie stars. Sometimes they'll move to a place. In fact, one of them I read about, I can't remember his name, probably grateful for that, but he moved to a little town in Italy. And he made sure when he went there to meet with all the townspeople to say, I don't want to be recognized. I don't want anybody to treat me like a movie star. I just want to live here in peace, and no paparazzi can come here. You protect me, and I'll live in this little village in a simple house. I just want the loving feelings between people, nobody looking at me like a big person. And this is, according to Kaviraj Goswami, the mood of Krishna. He likes Vrindavan. Everyone treats him as an equal, or even an inferior. And Kaviraj Goswami says, when my girlfriends chastise me, you know, sometimes Krishna goes to see Srimati Radharani. I'm not qualified to say much about this, but it's in the book with folded hands and bowed head. I mentioned that he goes there and Srimati Radharani tells Lalita, tell him I don't want to see him. And Kaviraj Goswami says, when he receives such chastisement from his lovers, he relishes that more than the reverent hymns of the Vedas. So Janmashtami is a discovery of our eternal relationship with Krishna. There's also a process, or there is a process that leads to that discovery, and that is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Simplified in the age of Kali Yuga, but not to be mistaken to be something that is ineffectual. it's the most effective process to chant the divine names of Krishna, because iti murtyabhidanena mantra murtim amurtikam. Narada Muni says to Srila Vyasadeva that if you want to see the form of God, which is very difficult to do, you should take the process that is amurtikam, which is not difficult, and that is the repetition of God's names. So we're moving towards midnight, and now we have a couple of announcements, especially about how to make an exit after midnight. Something in the vein of you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And here's Hansapriya, who is in charge of our festivals here. And she's handed me an Academy Award to read out. We have had so far today, and it's not finished, but 15,000 visitors today. Well done. That's not nothing. And now we have a few announcements.